just to be on the safe side.
Sure. So about 4 years ago is when I found out my husband was having an affair. And so I thought that it was just a simple affair, and not that any affair should be simple. I mean, to be honest with you, any affair, any type of infidelity is devastating.
Right.
However, I found out that there was a lot more to it than what I knew about. There was a lot more to it than I could even fathom, to be honest with you. And so it went from, oh, he's probably, I felt like he probably was, unfaithful when it came to being, well, you have infidelity in different categories. You have infidelity where there's sex involved. You have infidelity where people are, hiding information, like financial infidelity. You have infidelity where people are having relationships with others, but they're not necessarily sexual relationships. And so I figured that it was likely just a sexual type relationship, or not sexual. I thought that it was just, him confiding in other women. Mm-hmm. Not to say that that's any better, because it really isn't. When you can tie with someone's emotions, I mean, it's really hard to untangle those things. But I was like, if it's that, we can work through it. No, I found out that my husband was unfaithful sexually. And naturally, if there was one, then there were several. Me and my naivety, I thought that it was just one person. I come to find out that it was multiple people. And to add to that, it ended up being that there was a child involved. And so here I am thinking that I had this wonderful marriage. My husband had always seemed like, like I was the sunrise and the sunset of his world. I mean, you hear people say all the time, I watched my share of Maury's shows. I really have. Maury and Sally Jesse Raphael. I'm kind of dating myself. But like all of those shows, you see all of them where you have these women who are like, yeah, my husband did this and I had no idea. And growing up, you're like, there is no way that you didn't know about that. Well, when I tell you, when I lived it and had no inkling that this was going on, it completely rocked my world and it really shattered me. I really felt like the rug was completely pulled from underneath me, and not just the rug, but the flooring too. So even the very foundation I felt was pulled from underneath me. And so from that point, he didn't necessarily reveal everything at one time. He ended up revealing things to me little by little in a trickling effect. And so initially, since we do go to church, we went to our pastors, and our pastors told us immediately, you all need to go to counseling. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Why would I do that? He has already shown that what this marriage meant to him. He's already violated commitment between the two of us. I'm not going to counseling. And so it was them who said, hey, I think you need to look a little bit deeper as to why this is going on and why this has happened. And so I honestly couldn't eat it. I said, you know what? If you won't allow me to have a divorce, because they married us, I said, well, if you won't allow us to have the divorce, then that's no problem. You want us to go to counseling? Not a problem. But at the end of the counseling, I still need you to sign those divorce papers. And so they're like, no, that's not how it works. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how it works. And so my pastor, he says, how about you all take 6 months of counseling? After 6 months, and you still feel the same way, then he says, you know what, we'll go ahead, not a problem, we'll do that. So I said, all right, I can do that. 6 months, that's all you need. The state of Virginia only requires that you're separated for a year. We can do 6 months. So I went into it with the mindset of, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and get this done, but I'm not going to put my whole self into it. And it was from that point where we actually went into the where we started the in-depth counseling. So we did the marriage counseling, and we also did individual counseling, where I found out that there really was a lot more to what I saw. And so this whole entire time, at the time, we were married for 7 years, and we were engaged a year prior. So this was an 8-year span. This was an 8-year span at that time. And so he kept this hidden this entire time. And so I was like, you know, wow. And so initially, when I'm thinking that, okay, he's just sowing his oats, he's just trying to, get out, all these women or what have you, he's just being this traditional man. Little did I know that there really was something underneath that, which was sexual addiction. I thought that that was something that stars did when they got found out. Like, oh, Ben Affleck, Bennifer, like they were this it couple. And Ben Affleck gets found out, and Jennifer Garner does what? She's like, oh no, I'm done with you. I'm gone. And so what does he do? He goes to rehab for sexual addiction. And you see all of these things on the limelight where people are like, oh, well, no, I just have sexual addiction. I didn't really cheat. And so that's how I took it initially when our therapist told us about it. And I'm like, there's no way. No, this man had a decision. These options were placed in front of him, and he took that and he utilized that, and now my world is flipped upside down. So if you want to put on this piece of paper, or if you want to diagnose it as sexual addiction, not a problem, but I really know what it is. I'm here, I am the WebMD. It's just like, no, yes, you have a degree, you have a doctorate, you did your residency, but I'm telling you, this is what it is. And so it took me really looking and finally being open to listening to what the therapist was saying, and not just his therapist and our therapist together, but even my therapist. Like finally she was like, are you sure that it really couldn't be sexual addiction? And finally it's when you have 5 different people who you feel like you can trust, who have nothing to lose in this except the copay, then it's just like, oh, okay, maybe it really is what they're saying that it is. And so when I saw him hit kind of rock bottom to a place where he really saw that he was about to lose everything, and I saw that it was coming from a genuine place, that's when I recognized, oh, this is a lot more than what it is, than what I thought it was. And so I won't go too far into detail because some of this is his story to tell.
Right.
There was a lot of things that happened when he was younger that added up to where he was today. And so when it comes to life in general, when people are missing things or there's different voids, they show up in different ways. So that's why we have emotional eating, but we don't look at emotional eating as an addiction. We just look at it as a coping mechanism to whatever it is that we have going on. So I'm stressed, so I emotionally eat. I'm having a bad day, so I'm just going to bake some cookies. Or my boyfriend broke up with me, so I'm going to eat a carton of ice cream. And we laugh those things off. But at the end of the day, we don't recognize that these are some of the things that we utilize to fill these voids. In essence, if they go too far, they actually are addictions. But because of what what culture has taught us, like we sweep it underneath the rug. Because anytime there's something that doesn't necessarily kind of jive with what people think it should be, if you have a label, we're automatically going to cast you to the side or cast you aside, right, but we're not going to really, talk about what it is. And sexual addiction is one of those things. People think that it's just someone, having a whole lot of sex with a whole lot of people. But in essence, what they don't recognize is it's generally stemming from many voids, some of them coming from childhood or traumatic experiences in life, and this is how it manifests.
Now, do you feel like his sexual addiction impacted your sexual health at all?
Yes. Not just my sexual health, but also other aspects of my life, which we'll get to. But for my sexual health, yes. So I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease probably 9 months to a year before I found all of this stuff out. And so with that, he put me in jeopardy, considering that a lot of the sex that he was having was unprotected sex. And so with that, I was furious because I was like, you put my life in jeopardy. I very well could have, been exposed to different things that I would have a harder time, recovering from than the average person. So for example, with the autoimmune disease, when it comes to colds, just a simple common cold, I have a harder time recovering from that than the average person. Like a normal person, it takes about 2 weeks. For me, it takes about a month and a half to 2 months to rid my body completely of that cold germ. And so even with normal cuts, it takes me a longer time to heal from a cut than it does for another person. And so I was enraged when I found this out. In addition to that, like just with sexual health, I mean, because he and I were married and he was my only partner, naturally I didn't want to be involved with him. And I felt many, times that there was something wrong with me. It took me the longest time to recognize that it was not my fault. Like as a wife, you blame yourself for all things. Like, okay, maybe I didn't have sex enough, or maybe I should have done things differently, or should have done this or done that. When at the end of the day, it was none of those things. It was, though, yes, that was a tool that he was utilizing, but it wasn't, that was not the end all be all as to why it happened.
Right. Wow. And here goes one of those pregnant pauses of mine.
Yeah, it really is, it's a lot. And the reason that it's a lot is because we don't talk about it. And it has nothing to, I'll put this out there, it has nothing to do with the Black community. Sometimes people want to say, oh, well, the Black community, we don't talk about things. I mean, well, yeah, we don't. But there's a lot of different communities that don't talk about this because they don't necessarily, like me in the beginning, recognize it for what it was. We think that, oh no, he just wants to do this, or he wants to, be out there. That's, some people even say, oh, well, that's what men are supposed to do. Actually, no. But we put out all these reasons to overshadow the real reality of what's going on.
Well, so as far as I had any type of understanding of the situation, the only place where I had ever really heard it, other than like what you were saying, celebrities doing it, was in the TV show Girlfriends, when Joan's boyfriend, Shawn, had the sex addiction and she was trying to work him through that, help him get through it and everything. And that was like the only knowledge that I had on it. So, and then I started doing some research and everything and reading about the different myths and misconceptions about sexual addiction. It was just kind of like, wow. So it's not cut and dry like your typical person would think that it is. There's a whole lot to it. And no two people with sex addictions are the same. Like it's not like a textbook thing where you read the definition and say, this is what it is, because it presents itself differently in different people.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and it's such a simple example that I'm almost reluctant to even put it out there, but I mean, to be honest with you, this is what really like opened my eyes. So he and I got into an argument one time, and I was telling him, I just don't believe you. I don't believe that this is what it is. There's no way. And so he responded back, and, I can laugh at it today. I could not laugh at it at the time. But he was like, it's no different than you not being able to give up sugar. And I was like, so first of all, you didn't have to go there. Second, that was absolutely unnecessary. And three, you don't know my life. In essence, yes, he does. He's my husband. So I thought about it. And after you get over the initial shock that someone's calling out the fact that you love sweets, I was like, you know what? It's true. And what helped me was I looked at it. And so one of the things that people who know me, they know that I absolutely love a good cupcake. Like, seriously. One of my wind downs that I truly love is a cup of coffee in the evening and something sweet, whether it be a cookie or whether it be a piece of cake or what have you. But I will sell government secrets for a great cupcake. And so he knew this, and he was like, it's no different. And I was like, you know what? that's kind of true, because I'm sitting here trying to figure out what would my life be without cupcakes. And I'm not saying it to be comedic at any at any rate. I mean, it is funny, but it's the truth. I'm like, oh
Right.
man, I don't know what life would be without cupcakes. Like, that sounds like a really sad world. And when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Maybe you have a cupcake addiction or a sweets addiction. And I was like, you know what? He's right. Like, I struggle with being able to let go of sweets, and not fruit. Like, no, fruit's not going to do it. Yeah, that's natural sugar. You can get it from other ways, smoothies or what have you. It's like, no, I need the hard stuff. I need the cookies, I need the cake, I need the pie, and nothing else is going to suffice. And when that clicked in my head, I was like, oh, this is what he's talking about. Like, mine is sweet, but his is being able to fulfill that so-called sweet tooth,
Mm-hmm.
sex and women in relationships. And so the doctor had, when I came back to our marital sessions and kind of told the doctor, okay, yeah, I think I kind of get it now. He let me know that this will always be a process for him. So just because he's faithful now, which he has been ever since, we call it D-Day in the community of women who have experienced infidelity. D-Day is considered Discovery Day. So it's the day that, your world was kind of turned upside down. Since D-Day, he has been faithful. And I believe that he's been faithful for several reasons. But with that, every day is a process for him. It's no different than someone who is in Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, or for me, Sugar, Anonymous. Like, it's no difference. He will always be a recovering addict. He will always be fighting impulses to not establish relationships with other women, and if something's not going right in his life, and seeking comfort from other women. Like, he's always going to be battling that. And so just something as simple as me and the sugar, like, I try to be very empathetic when it comes to that, because I haven't been able to give sugar away.
Right.
I can do it for maybe a week, but then when those headaches start, then it's just like, you know what? Let's go get this cupcake. We're not doing this. And so it's the same way. And unfortunately, I'm able to feed my addiction, but he can't, because society and, our marital covenant, and because of the religion we're Christian. And so even within our religion, it's, shunned upon. And for the simple fact that his wife is saying that she's not sharing, that she's just not doing that. And so he has to, daily work towards recovery.
Mm-hmm. So now, what do you think is probably the biggest misconception about around the sexual addiction, and as the person that was a part of the collateral damage of a sexual addiction? How do you get beyond that? How do you get past that? I mean, because you guys are making a conscious effort to keep it together and to work through it, whereas I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that are like, no, I'm good.
Oof. So I have so many things that I could say about that. So I'll go in order. I'll start with the misconceptions. I'll go into the recovery, and then I'll talk a little bit about singleness, because I think it has a lot to do with that. So let's start with the misconceptions. One of the misconceptions that I learned through all of this is people who experience sexual addictions, this is not fun for them. So in a world where sex and, gratuitousness and all that is glorified in a sense, especially by rappers and, just the culture that we live in. The hottest song out right now is WAP. Now, I'm not going to go there with anyone. You know what? If that's you, do you. I'm not here to speak for or against. What I am saying is, like, this is the culture that we're living in. Sex sells. And so when we think about how sex sells, we automatically assume that everyone is having a good time. And when it comes to those who are experiencing sexual addiction, we automatically assume, oh, well, you get this great feeling every single time. What do you mean you're not having a great time? But at the end of the day, it really is like an addict or a cocaine or crack addict, where yes, they are getting that high, they're getting their emotions and their levels up in I forget what system it is, please forgive me, but they're getting all of these things up and they're getting that sensation. But as soon as they hit that peak, what is that? A crashing down. And for a crack addict, once that high is over, it's just like, wait a minute, I'm sitting in this crack house and I'm around all this filth, or my family is damaged or what have you. Look at all of this because of one high that has added up to multiple highs. Same with sex addicts. Like in the moment, yeah, great. Even they're also thinking to themselves, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I can't fight the feeling that I'm experiencing from this. So what do? They go through with it. But then after they hit that peak, comes back down and reality sets. And so reality for them is, if they're not married, they still don't feel good about it because they're utilizing their body, for this. They're giving away the most intimate part that they have. Um, Outside of, your private areas, what do you have? Your mind. And essentially when it comes to sexual addiction, in a sense, they're giving away both the most intimate things that they have. And so it can't feel good that you're giving these things away to people, and in essence you're not even receiving anything back but a temporary 30-second feeling. And so they don't enjoy it. This is not fun for them. This is not, they're not living a not life. This is not, they're not calling up their boys and saying, oh, I bagged this one, or even if it's a woman, oh, I got this guy, or like this is not fun for them. So I would say that's probably the biggest misconception is, it's not fun. They're not enjoying it and they feel terrible afterwards. Same like the rest of us. Don't mean to minimize it, but like us, I'm on this diet, I'm doing well, I did everything that I said I'm going to do, and then what do? You walk past the bakery, you go in, you're saying, hey, it won't hurt. You eat it, and then afterwards you feel like crap because you're like, shoot, everything that I worked for just because of a moment of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I would say, is the biggest misconception. Mm-hmm. As far as getting through it, it's been a lot of therapy. So it's been a lot of therapy, and it's been I've also, again, had a light bulb moment. I can't tell you when it was, but it also leads to a lot of the things that you talked about that are in my resume. So when all of this happened, I hit rock bottom. Like, I was destroyed. I was distraught. I didn't know my left from my right. There's probably periods, and when I say periods, not days, I'm talking about months, that I just simply can't remember. My mind and my body went into just protection mode, where there's some things that I remember, like initially and immediately, and then there's spans of time that I can't remember, and then my memory kind of picks up here and there, not entirely here and there. And so with that is one of the things that I had to deal with, is trying to kind of recoup some of this memory because I lost a lot. Like in addition to that, like I wasn't there for my children. So I had children during that time, and my kids, thank God they were in a place where they were old enough to kind of fend for themselves, because I don't remember a whole lot. And that's one of the casualties of sexual addiction and these things that happen, is like, there really is more than just the notion of this person was unfaithful, but it's a trickle effect that some of us honestly aren't prepared for, again, because we don't talk about it. And so my children were a casualty. I was a casualty of this, and my husband was a casualty, in addition to others in his life. And so with that, I hit rock bottom, and there was, I would say, a year or two later, I decided that I was going to start living life for myself. Still a wife, We're still married today. We still, that 6 month period, of course, has lasted. I woke up, um, we ended up going therapy, not just because I wanted to wait out the time so I can get a divorce. We ended up, working through all these things. But with that, I decided that life was too short. So I gave this man, you know, some of the best, honestly, the best years of my life. My younger years, the years where, women are normally, they're fittest and all this other stuff. And so I gave him the best years of my life. And I said that I'm not going to give him the rest in that sense. So if there's a chance that he's going to fall, that's no problem. And it is a problem. I don't want to diminish it or minimize it, but I'm going to start living life for me. And out of that birthed businesses. And, I switched my career at my 9 to 5 job. So I still have a 9 to 5. I switched my career and I did everything for the most part that I said that I wanted to do, because I said, I will no longer dim my light or not go through the things that I want to simply because I'm trying to play this role of wife or this role of housekeeper or whatever it is. I'm going to start living for me. And so from that, yes, we still have to deal with a lot of these things, but from it, I also just got the courage to just get completely out of my shell. Like I said, no longer am I going to be this meek, this timid person. I'm going to start doing what I want to do and what I was put on this earth to do. And I'll never be like it. God, may the Lord bless her. What's her name? Aniko Hart, where she said that Kevin Hart's infidelity was probably the best thing that ever happened. No, that was the best thing. If that was Disneyland for you, not a problem. But that was not the ideal of a fun time for me. And so I'll never say that that was, the best thing ever that happened to our relationship or happened to me. No, it wasn't. But from all of this, from everything completely burning down in my life, I was able to find myself again.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, if you would please share your social media, all of your ways that people can get in contact with you, because I'm sure between all of the different avenues that you have to offer people different services and help and advice, I think it would be greatly appreciated.
Sure, absolutely. So on Instagram, people can find me with the @ sign at I_am_Shawn K. Shawn is SHAWN. On Facebook, I'm Shawn Karawa. My name SHAWN KARAWA. Online, they can find me at ShawnKcollective.com. And then if they want to email me, ShawnKcollective@gmail.com. And one of the things that I will say is I truly have a heart for women who have been through this, because it really is something that completely shatters and it rocks your world. But I'm a testament to the fact that you can get through this and you can live again. Will your life be the same after it? Absolutely not. But what it does do is first of all, it gives you a greater understanding of the need for empathy and understanding others. But then also with that, it does help you to understand, that we just all aren't perfect, and this is not a pass card or get out of jail free card for any person who is doing this to someone else. But what it does is it shows you that, just we all are flawed. We all have different things, and we do have to be understanding to people, just simply because our addictions or the areas where we fall short in don't look like someone else's. And the last thing that I will give out is 2 sources of resources. So one is called Out of the Shadows, Understanding Sexual Addiction by Patrick Carnes, PhD. This has been a great resource, and it explains to people who aren't experiencing sexual addiction what it is and what it looks like. Um, I'm a nerd. I love books. So this thing was so helpful to me. especially when I was in the thick of it and truly did not understand what sexual addiction was, and that it wasn't just a Ben Affleck thing. Like it really is something. And the second thing is, when I was going through it, because I am Christian, I immediately, when it happened, I went to Amazon to find a resource or something that would help me through, because I just needed anything and everything to explain to me why I'm going through this. And I couldn't find anything. But because I could not find anything, I wrote a book myself on it. So I wrote a devotional and a memoir style journal of the 30 lessons learned from my husband's infidelity. And I'll show that here. And what it does is, just because my husband, you know, was unfaithful and uh, he brought infidelity into our marriage, does not mean that in the aftermath was I right about everything that I did. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people who are going this can do, is you not take responsibility for some of the things that you do after. Are we justified in how we feel and what we're going through? Absolutely. But still, there are so many ramifications in your response, and you have to be mature about it, or you'll do damage in the end, and you'll be suffering or experiencing consequences for years after. And I'm still recovering from consequences and from actions that I made during this period, during the aftermath period. And so I try to help people understand that, yes, you're justified, but you got to do it differently. You can't make the same mistakes that I did.
That's great. And then also, just to put this out there as well, if you do go and follow her, keep an eye out, because a little birdie told me that you're going to be possibly starting a YouTube page pretty soon that's going to cover this same topic and can be another great resource for people to use, especially if you're going through it or coming out on the other end, or think that you may be entering it on the other side.
Yep, absolutely. They'll be able to find us soon. So uh, keep watch on our social media pages.
Will do. Well, thank you so much for your time and your story, for sharing your story. This is just awesome, especially that September is Sexual Health Month. This is one of those topics that people just really don't talk about. So I think this is great that you're willing to share your story and to share the ways that you were able to get through it and still keep your marriage. Um,
Yeah,
I think that's like the definite gold star at the end. Like, and she's still in it and they're working on it together. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Shawn.
absolutely. Thank you, Yvette. And I really am grateful for this opportunity. Even if it helps one person, then it means that it was absolutely worth it.